Hello there, my name is Victor Oguinka, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.
Over 1,000 people are benefiting from free medical services provided by the FCT chapter.
Some of the Arsenal fans will be very interested in this news. Arsenal smash club transfer record signed Pep.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to Vanguard Live. And of course, it's Today in the News. Here we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. I'm Damilola Ogunshaki, and I'm with my co-host
Precious Chukwudi.
Precious, good morning.
Good morning, Demi. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm good.
I don't know, it seems like traffic has sort of gone back again.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's because of the the second phase of the lockdown, where a lot of people have returned back to work. So I guess that's why the traffic now is back.
I hope that we'll be able to find a solution on that one.
Yes, I hope so too. Okay, let's look at the story on the front page of Vanguard, and we have EDO outbid by APC governors for indirect primary field, and the riders Obaseki's absence at meeting weakened APC governors push. Detail of what Oshiomhole discussed with 7 APC governors. Why I wasn't at governor's meeting with Oshiomhole, and this is coming from Obaseki. Court declines injunction on APC primary, fixes date for hearing. You can see more of this on page 5. And on the front page of Vanguard, we have a photo story there of a social distance greeting, and the writer it has President Muhammadu Buhari receiving President of African Development Bank Akinwumi Adesina with social distance greeting in State House Abuja yesterday. And of course, moving on to the stories on page 8, we have COVID-19, 812 health workers infected, and this is coming from the Presidential Task Force. And on page 13, Okorocha is saying many Northern VIPs were once a Majirai. And on the story below, we have federal government orders investigation of Uniben students gang rape, mother abuse of minor. You can see more of that on page 6. And on the stories above, we have Majek Fashek, the rainmaker dies at 57. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have you lied, I didn't ask for Niger Delta Development Commission, that's NDDC projects. Akpabio replies Nwaobuchi. And from the front page of Vanguard, we move straight to the Punch.
And on the Punch newspaper, we have major headlines: revised budget. Federal government gives the National Assembly 27 billion naira for renovation. Court health UBE votes. The riders, we have government slashes primary health care centers fund from 44.4 billion naira to 25.5 billion naira. UBE 11.7 billion naira to 51.1 billion. 111.7 billion naira to 51.1 billion naira. And we have federal legislators raise oil benchmark to $28 per barrel, reduces output, excess crude accounts illegal, Rep says. And on the stories beneath, we have Obaseki, P-Man, others mourn Majek Fashek. You can see more on that story on page 10. And on page 5, 24 female victims accuse students of rape on Twitter. And on page 4, still on page 4 and 5, we have Uniben students, suspects arrested as IG others case transfer. And on the stories above, we have Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Ekiti. We can't reopen churches, mosques now. A National Assembly approves Buhari's $5.5 billion budget loan, $22.7 billion facility. You can see more on that story on page 27 of the Punch newspaper. And away from the Punch, we move straight to the Nation newspaper.
And on the front page of the Nation, we have a government. If you are 55 and above, avoid mosques and churches. And the riders, we have a PTF issues advisory to states on return of services and prayers. Worship centers stay short, say Lagos, Oyo, Kwara, and Kaduna. And on the story below, we have Buhari to work with others for Adesina's re-election. AFDP president, my clearance by ethics panel in line with rules. You can see more of that on page 8. And inside the Nation, we also have Lagos discharges 33 patients. Ex-NDDC director Etang test positive. Ibadan firm business continue around Ibadan firm despite 190 cases. Anambra to teachers, you can't force us to reopen schools. And you can see more of that inside the Nation newspaper. And on the stories above, we have a so long reggae icon Majid Fashek. A tribute rain for stars. You can see more of it on pages 28 and page 3. IG takes over probe of Uniben students killing. Dad battled to save her. You can see more of that on page 4. And lastly, on the front page of the Nation, we have a why Kalu remains in prison. Service awaits order, and that's on page 6. And from the front page of the Nation, we move straight to this day.
And on this day newspaper, we have major headlines. The federal government restricts children from churches, mosques, and limits service to 1 hour. Deploys gene expert machines in Kogi, Cross River. Worship centers remain closed in Lagos, Kaduna. 812 health workers infected with COVID-19. Nigeria resumes participation in WHO's clinical trial. Virus infected 241 more, bringing total to 10,819 with 314 deaths and 3,239 discharged. And the stories beneath, we have Obaseki rules out defection, vows to contest on APC's platform. And we have Buhari vows Nigerians unflinching support for Adesina. On the stories above, we have National Assembly raises 2020 budget oil price benchmark to $28 per barrel, reduces production to 1.8 MBD, and okays federal government $5.53 billion external loan request. And that's all we have for you on the front pages of the newspaper.
And that's all we have for you on the front page of the newspaper. But we'll be going on a short break. And when we come back, we'll be discussing, we'll be giving in-depth analysis on these stories. So stay with us and don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I'm Damlola Okunshake and I've been with my co-host
Precious Chukudi.
And we've reviewed some of the front pages of the newspaper like Vanguard, This Day, The Nation and The Punch. And right now we'll be going into the analysis segment where we'll be giving you more details on those stories. And of course we'll be discussing first the story on the front page of Vanguard, and that's EDO outbid by APC governors for indirect primary field. And it was learned that with the absence of Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, at the meeting with the National Working Committee, that's the NWC, with Oshomole. It could not convince Oshomole because of Godwell's Obaseki absence. And this meeting was to grant the governor soft landing in his re-election request, as Oshomole insists on the red primary to elect the Edo APC governorship candidate, while Obaseki and his supporters are voting for indirect primary. It was also learned that Oshomole was surprised that the governor was absent, and in an attempt to set the record straight, he reeled out the genesis of the crisis between him and Obaseki, adding that the governor had botched many reconciliation moves by him, that he has botched it. Sources also said that when the governor came for the meeting, Oshomole showed evidence. No, that when the governors came for the meeting, Oshomole showed evidence, text messages that he has sent to the governor for meetings so that they can reconcile, but the governor did not attend any of these meetings. But in response to this, Governor Obaseki of Edo State said he could not attend the meeting because of a call from President Muhammadu Buhari, and also it's a special advisor for media, Mr. Osage, told Vanguard on phone that Obaseki's absence was not deliberate, adding that the governor wants an end to this crisis between him and Obaseki and Oshomole rather. That is all on that story. Precious story.
All right, so we move to the COVID-19 story, and that's about 812 health workers infected, and this information was passed by the Presidential Task Force yesterday. So they're saying that no fewer than 812 health workers, including 29 staff of Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) on the front line in the fight against COVID-19, have tested positive for the virus. And the Director General of NCDC, that's Dr. Chikwe Hiekwazu, he disclosed that at the daily briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, according to him, he said that we have had 812 health workers infected. They are not just members. 29 of them work with the NCDC, and they are people that he knows. And he says 8 of them rather right now are in the EDO treatment center. It's really heartbreaking to see that some of our health workers, have one way or the other contracted the virus, because in trying to protect people from being exposed or treating them, those who already have the virus, you stand the risk of also getting the virus. So it's a very large number. We hope and pray that they will get well soon, and this scourge will pass. Alright, so you have more stories. Okay,
on this story, that's the former governor of Imo State, that's Senator Richard Okorocha, yesterday flayed the northern governors over rejection of the Amajiri system. According to him, he said VIPs in the north at present are products, that most of the VIPs in the north at present are result of the Amajiri system. He said the system has its origin from the immigration of Prophet Muhammad. While he immigrated from Mecca, that some people followed him in search of knowledge, and they were catered for. They were not hungry, that they were fed. So he reiterated that the abandoned children needed education. They also needed care and jobs. He said, and I quote, "Who knows? One of them could be a president someday." He said that the Okorocha Foundation had been established in Sokoto, Kano, Yola, and Zaria with the sole aim of providing education and also other things to the Almajiri. And that is all on that story. And moving on to, before the story, do you have any?
Yes, I have the Uniben student murder. Federal government orders investigation of student gang rape, mother abuse on minor. The federal government has directed the police to unravel the circumstances surrounding the gang rape and murder of a female student of the University of Benin, that's Vera Walia Momozua. in Benin, and the serial sexual abuse of a minor in Jigawa State by 14 men with a view to bring the perpetrators to justice. And also the IGP ordered the force CID to take over investigations on those cases, as well as the Senate has also called on all relevant authorities in the country to ensure stiffer punishment for rapists in the country.
I think I agree with that one.
Yes, I agree too, because
I really agree
it
with
would
that.
stop all these vices.
Yes.
And also the Edo State Police Command has said that a suspect arrested in connection to the rape and murder was identified through his fingerprint on the fire extinguisher allegedly used to smash the deceased head. So they have a suspect now in custody, and he was identified by his fingerprint on the fire extinguisher used to smash Vera Walia's head. So it's good to see that the right authorities are actually getting on this case. Yes.
Okay. And you were talking about a story on Twitter.
Yes, still speaking about rape. Yesterday on Twitter there was a lot of hula baloo. Like, people were talking on Twitter, with this whole rapist thingy that started. There's people saying that explaining their own experiences, and there was a type of experiences that was trending on Twitter. And that's 24 female victims accused students of rape on Twitter, and no fewer than 24 ladies have accused the real estate agent, his name is God Knows Adolphus, of rape. And the ladies in a series of tweets said Adolphus, also known as Yangi on the social media, took advantage and defiled them. And the Yankee guy, his antics is he would find these ladies, befriend them, and he will now later invite them to his house and his uncle's hotel in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, where he would, defile them. There's so many stories.
While reading some of the tweets, I think they also mentioned that he is not the only one. He also does it with one of his friends.
Yes, one of his friends, Mila, too. They are also and the guy is a student of a private university in Ogun State. So it's a lot of things. Like, this is now bringing out.
I want to say that's the trend that's going on now, because I don't understand what's going on, that you just want to rape someone. There are a lot of ladies out there. Maybe you feel like you can't approach her, meet her first. Need consent. The lady needs to say yes. Must you force someone?
And there are a lot of voice notes too that was released where he was saying different crazy things that we should not even be hearing, and how many times like some of the victims said we're going to expose him, and he was like
threatening them with their nude pictures.
Yes, he threatened them, so it just shows how much even some persons are willing to come out, but they don't want to come out because they're like popular faces, and they're afraid of what people would say. They don't want their character to be dented and all of that. So it's a function of everything. So it's just so sad that this is bringing up more cases, and I think that I agree with what the Senate is saying, that stiffer measures, stiffer punishment for rapists should be adopted.
I think we also need to encourage the victims of this also speak up and talk, so that we can know what is going on. Okay, but away from that story, the PTF, through the PTF on COVID-19, the government stated that 55 years old and above should stay away from worship centers. That those 55 years old and above, that most of them are like, when you check the death rate of the COVID-19, most of the people who died are from 55 years old. And he said those with health conditions such as diabetes and cancer, HIV, among others, are also enjoined to stay at home. They also noted that the advice was necessary because places of worship have been recognized as a major avenue of a potential spread of coronavirus. The PTF National Chairman, that's Mr. Sani Aliu, said, looking at the data, for those COVID-19, that more than half of those who died were above the age of 90. Also, if you can recall, on Monday, the federal government lifted the ban on the mosque and churches in the country that's based on the guidelines and protocols agreed with the state government. But we have some state governors and state government that have come out to say that they are not ready to open churches, and that they have some protocols and guidelines that they need to release before those churches actually come to pass. And that's number one, Lagos. Lagos states that the Home Affairs for Lagos, Elegushi, on Tuesday said that worship centers in Lagos will remain shut due to the continued increase of COVID-19 in Lagos. And as we can recall, so Lagos is the epicenter for this disease. The Elegushi also said that the announcement claimed that the churches, that they could not say, that some of the religious leaders claimed that they could not take responsibility for people, for if they have more than 20 or 50 worshippers in the church, because like an imam who said that if he is praying, that he cannot he cannot count the people that are at his back. He does not know if they are like 20 or 50, so he can't take responsibilities for that. So I think that is why Lagos state government is saying that they are not ready to open church.
I think that, yes, before now we were having conversations where we brought some guests in this week and asking them what they think basically about the fact that churches and mosques were open. I was really scared about the fact that we'll start to go to church on Sunday. But the point is, it's not about going to church. It's not about going to mosque. It's about protecting yourself. Yeah. If the virus is still here in the country, we have to ensure that we protect ourselves. And I made mention of what happened in far away, outside the country, of how a particular country opened their, eased their lockdown and said, okay, people can go to church. And then a good number of the population that came to church contracted the virus, and now all of them have been taken into isolation centers and all of that. We can't risk it. And you can imagine coming into the church. Maybe if the church is where you have to pull the door, you know how many people would have pulled that door.
Mostly the sanitizers are outside before you open the door. So you sanitize your hand, you still touch it. The
children will be with their fellow children, and they will be having Bible study, or so you see there's a chance that there will be more exposure to people contracting the virus. So I like the fact that Lagos State, which is also the epicenter, has said that no churches open.
Just waving that people have been requesting for churches to be open. I was also reading a story of Anambra. Anambra State was they were telling the students, these teachers, that they are not ready to open school, that they can't force them to open. I think one of the countries in Asia, actually they opened their school, they eased the lockdown, opened the school, but now they are forced to close it back again because of the continued increase in COVID. So I think we should be patient.
Yes, and even in the mosques too, it's good to see that in the mosques too, they can't come back, because it's not how you pray without
just like what that imam is saying. He said if he's praying, he can't count the people that at his back, so they can't hold him responsible for that.
That's the thing. Everybody comes focused on how they want to pray and then go. So those chances of touching people and all those things, you cannot account for those things.
Okay, and also in Ekiti, the governor of Fayemi said that a protocol, guideline and modalities to open the places of worship will also be set up. So the worship centers for now have remained shut. Meanwhile, Ogun State government also said that it will hold a meeting with the leader of both Islamic and Christian religions in the modalities to be adopted before announcing the reopening of worship centers. Also, Oyo State task force also said that it was yet to relax the ban on the religious activities in the state, and also the curfew that was also imposed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is all I have with me on this story. Specials, do you have comments to take?
All right, so let me take this one from Rafi. Rafi says, if churches and mosques can be opened, why can't school be opened? The fact is that it's risky to open places of worship. Exactly.
It's risky, but come to look at it also, we can't we can't compare church with schools. When we are talking of church, I think if they want to open church, they can tell the children, okay, children, you can stay home or you can do this. But when you're talking of children in schools, you can't monitor them. Your teachers are going to be there. Yes, even if they are there, they don't know what you are doing. They don't know how you are communicating with your friends.
The point is that any place where you're going to have a lot of gatherings,
I think it
shouldn't even be opened because of, proximity. It's something that we cannot avoid in this part of, the country. It's just something that we cannot even help, because you be close to someone, and the average Nigerian man is not really very careful.
No,
we're not. So
I'm sure you'd have finished shaking the first thing before you realize that I'm not supposed to shake.
And trust, imagine the first time when church is going to come back, or when people eventually gather at the mosques, you can imagine how, the fellowship of brethren, you'll be too excited to even remember that there's something like COVID-19 that you should even be preventing yourself from. So it's good to see that, places where there are like large gatherings, there's Lagos State government ensuring that those places are not going to be open for a while. So let me take this one. This is from Chike Obi Prince. I feel since religious places and markets are open, schools should also be allowed while observing social distancing with face masks wearing. No, children are not
face mask wearing for children
are not they're just too innocent to be saying, oh, Debola, stay here. Before Debola wants to greet
Idris. They're gonna beat him
you want to greet Idris wants to greet Amaka, and all these things. Before you know what's happening, they've spread it to one another. So
I think we can try that with maybe the SS classes, that senior classes,
even to an extent. How much would they be able to avoid things like that?
That's true.
So
that's what you have on comment. Okay, before we go, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. And the first person talking today, I think this conversation is actually funny. Mr. said, I don't understand you anymore. When did eating fish become cannibalism? Mrs. replied, she said, I've heard the phrase dog eats dog before, but not fish eat fish. Your name is Titus, and you are eating Titus fish.
The savage in that comment is so loud.
Very, very loud. Your name is Titus and you're eating Titus fish.
Well, he's allowed to eat fish. I've even heard of people who eat fish, they are called pescatarian. I'm like, when I heard that word, I was like, are you serious? Pescatarian? So they're like, oh, I only eat fish, you don't eat anything, beef and all those kind of things.
Only fish. I don't think I can do that. Okay, let's go to Vanguard Sports. And in Vanguard Sports, we have, according to that, Guinea-Troy, he said, I'll make Eagles champion of African again. And the rider, it says, he moved Nigeria from number 13 to 3 in Africa. And also, EPL title, we are not champions yet. Club tells Liverpool players, warns on Man City chase. And in Champions League, Man United plots Sterling transfer if City's ban is upheld. NRFF share palliatives to rugby clubs. Rashford congratulates Igalo on contract extension. Also, Genetro wants Osimhen to move to EPL or Serie A. Fury vows to smash Joshua, Wilder and White. I think this is really going to be interesting. Fury vowing to smash both Joshua and Wilder. FIFA call for common sense after Sancho yellow card for Floyd's tribute. Okay, that is all we have on Vanguard Sports, and we also have today's matches, but that will be communicated to you later. And that is all we have on the paper review and paper analysis for this morning. I'm Damlola Ogunshaki, and I've been with my co-host
Precious Chukudi.
Don't forget that while you are off, you can always like and follow us on our social media platform, and also visit our website www.vanguardnigeria.com to check some of our other stories and stories that we're reporting here. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channels and also create a watch party anytime we are doing a program with your friends so that they can also stay informed. Don't forget, always stay safe and protect yourself. Follow the safety guidelines, as that's the best way to always stay safe and also stay healthy. It's bye from me and Precious.